Part 3. Night Roads, Small Fires. They cleared the city's last neighborhoods while the night was still thick. Not downtown, not where the crowds gathered and hunger made its own laws. They stayed on the edges, moving through quiet streets where lawns were already browning and porch lights were either dead or left on like weak prayers. The farther they went, the more the city changed shape. At first it was obvious chaos, sirens, shouting, flickers of firelight in alleys. But in the outer neighborhoods, it was worse in a quieter way. Shutters closed, curtains pinned. Cars pulled into garages and never moved again. Mara could feel people watching from behind glass. Not because Mara and Eli were loud, but because fear made everyone suspicious. The shelter-in-place orders had done something the government didn't understand. It had taught people to stay put until staying put became a trap. And now, anyone moving at night was either desperate or dangerous, or both. They crossed a park with dead sprinkler heads and a playground that squeaked in the wind. Eli led them along the tree line, stepping where grass met shadow. Mara checked their heading on the paper map under a headlamp held tight against her chest, light blocked by her hand. No glowing screens, no easy signals. Their phones were bricks now, good for flashlights and old photos. They reached a service road that fed into a state highway. Eli stopped and listened. The highway should have carried steady noise even at night, but it didn't. It was empty. That emptiness made Mara's skin prickle. "Road's dead," Eli whispered. Mara nodded. "That means fuel's dead." Eli scanned both directions, then pointed to a darker strip of pavement that ran parallel. "Farm road," he said. They slipped down it. For the first hour, it was quiet enough to hear insects and their own breathing. For the second hour, the quiet became tense. Because the dark out here wasn't city dark, it was country dark. Big, endless, and capable of hiding anything. They moved with disciplined pauses. Walk, listen, move again. Mara's father had taught them the value of irregular timing. "Predators learn patterns," he'd say. "Don't give them one." Before dawn, they reached a drainage culvert beneath an overpass. It wasn't comfortable, but it was concealed. They couldn't keep moving in daylight. Daylight made you visible. Daylight made you approachable. Daylight made you a question someone might answer with violence. Mara checked the area, then nodded. "Here," she said. They crawled into the culvert and settled back in the shadow. Eli pulled out a small strip of tarp and spread it beneath them to keep moisture from soaking their clothes. Mara took out a water bottle and measured out sips. No drinking freely, no pretending resources were endless. They ate one bar each, slow, chewing deliberately, listening. Outside, the sky brightened. A car passed on the overpass above them, slow and rattling. It didn't sound healthy. Then another, then nothing for a long time. Eli leaned his head back against the concrete. "This feels wrong," he murmured. Mara's eyes stayed open. "It is." Eli turned his face toward her. "Dad said there'd be a moment where it stopped feeling like an emergency and started feeling like the new rules." Mara nodded. "This is that moment." They slept in shifts. Mara first because she'd been up longer the night before. Eli stayed awake, listening, eyes half open. Mara drifted into shallow sleep and dreamed of their kitchen at home. Their mother was at the sink. Their father was leaning against the counter with his arms crossed. The radio was on, but the voices coming from it were wrong. Not news. Orders. Mara woke with her heart fast and her mouth dry. Eli's eyes flicked to hers. "You okay?" he whispered. Mara nodded once. "Just remembering." They stayed hidden until late afternoon when shadows lengthened again. Then they moved. Night travel became their routine. Move after dusk,
Hide before dawn. Avoid towns. Avoid main roads. Use the map like a living thing, not a suggestion. They scavenged what they could without breaking into places that looked occupied. One abandoned gas station had a storage closet with bottled water and a box of protein packets that tasted like chalk. A farm stand had been emptied, but behind it they found a small patch of potatoes still in the ground. Mara dug them up with a flat rock, hands getting dirty and numb. They cooked those potatoes over a tiny fire concealed inside a dugout depression. Eli built the fire like their father taught them, small, shielded, minimal smoke, heat without announcement. They ate, and for the first time in days, Mara felt her stomach settle. Eli looked toward the distant horizon, where faint orange glows marked a town burning or a refinery flaring. "How long do you think it lasts?" he asked. Mara answered honestly, "Long enough to change everything." Eli nodded slowly. "And the people?" Mara's voice went quieter. "The people change faster than anything." They saw proof of that on the 5th night. They were skirting a 2-lane road when they heard voices ahead. Not casual voices, not tired voices, loud voices, confident. Mara and Eli dropped instantly into the ditch line, crawling into weeds and mud. They lay still. A convoy rolled past, 3 pickup trucks, headlights off, only dim running lights, men standing in the beds with rifles held careless like props. The trucks moved at a steady pace, slow enough to see silhouettes in the cab. One of the men in the back laughed loud. Mara watched the trucks pass, and she felt a cold understanding settle in. These weren't people traveling home. These were people hunting. Eli's lips barely moved. "Second category," he whispered. "Strong in groups." Mara watched the last truck disappear down the road. "Yeah," she whispered back, "and they're getting organized." They waited a full 10 minutes before moving again, because discipline mattered more than fear. They shifted their route after that, pushing farther off-road, using tree lines and drainage paths, staying away from anything that looked too easy. Towns became dangerous rings on the map. The closer you got, the more you risked seeing someone who needed something from you, or someone who decided you were the something. On the 9th night, Eli's luck ran out. They were crossing behind an abandoned roadside diner when Mara heard the gravel shift. She froze. Eli froze. But the sound came again, closer. A third sound followed. Boots. 3 sets. Mara pulled Eli backward into the shadow of the building, pressing him against the wall. Eli's eyes were wide but controlled. She stepped forward sharply and swung the knife upward, not aiming to kill, but to cut. The blade caught the pistol guy's wrist. He yelled and jerked back. The gun dipped. Eli threw the rock hard into the crowbar guy's face. Crowbar guy staggered with a curse. Mara kicked pistol guy's knee inward, the way her father had shown her on the back porch, demonstrating joint angles like it was carpentry. The knee buckled. Pistol guy fell. The gun clattered onto the gravel. Knife guy lunged toward Mara, his blade flashing. Eli moved between them. He took the knife guy's arm with both hands and twisted. Not smooth, not perfect, but enough. The knife dropped. Knife guy swung his other fist and caught Eli in the cheek. Eli's head snapped sideways. Mara's heart spiked. She didn't think. She drove her knee into knife guy's stomach. He folded. Crowbar guy recovered, wiping blood from his nose, rage rising.
He raised the crowbar. Mara grabbed the fallen pistol. She pointed it, not at his head, at his chest. Her voice was cold. "Drop it!" Crowbar guy froze. His eyes flicked between Mara's face and the gun. He saw something there, not fear, a willingness. He lowered the crowbar slowly. Pistol guy on the ground groaned, clutching his wrist.
Mara kept the gun steady. "Back up," she said. Knife guy crawled backward, wheezing. Crowbar guy backed up too, hands raised. Eli stood, wiping blood from his lip, eyes sharp. Mara's chest heaved, but her aim stayed steady. "Walk away," she said. Crowbar guy spat. "You'll run into worse." Mara's voice didn't change. "Probably." Knife guy grabbed pistol guy's shirt and hauled him up. They stumbled away into the dark, leaving the crowbar behind. Mara didn't shoot. She watched until the sound of their footsteps faded completely. Then she lowered the gun and felt her hands start to shake. Eli touched his cheek. "I'm okay," he said quickly. Mara swallowed hard. "You're bleeding," she said. Eli nodded. "So are you." Mara looked down. A thin line of blood ran along her forearm where the knife guy had nicked her. It wasn't deep, but it was real. Mara's breath came out shaky. Eli's voice was quiet. "We need better weapons." Mara nodded slowly, looking down at the pistol in her hand. The weight felt wrong, but also necessary. "Dad told us," Mara whispered, "that evil lives everywhere." Eli's eyes met hers, "and good people keep the gates closed." Mara looked down the road where the men had gone. The world felt darker now, not because of night, because the rules had changed again, and now Mara and Eli had crossed a line, not into brutality, into readiness. They moved immediately, not staying near the diner, not letting the men return with friends. They traveled deeper into the tree line, moving fast and silent, putting miles between themselves and the fight. Before dawn, Mara found a sheltered hollow behind a fallen log. Eli sat down and let out a long breath, finally allowing his body to feel what had happened. Mara cleaned Eli's cheek with an antiseptic wipe and pressed gauze to it. Eli winced. Mara taped it down. Then she cleaned her own forearm. Small pain, big lesson. They lay back in the hollow, hidden under branches, and listened to the world. Somewhere in the distance, gunshots popped, faint and far, like cruel fireworks. Eli's voice was barely audible. "Do you think home is still there?" Mara stared up at the canopy of leaves. "I don't know," she admitted, "but Dad is." Eli nodded once, like that was enough. Mara held the pistol close, wrapped in cloth, hidden.
She hated it. She also knew she'd use it again if she had to, because now she understood something she hadn't fully understood before. The collapse wasn't just empty shelves and broken systems. It was a sorting, a separation. Those who hunted in packs and those who survived in small teams, quiet and skilled. Mara looked at Eli. They were a small team. They had to stay that way. And if they wanted to make it home, they needed more than courage. They needed capability. They needed tools. They needed what their father had always tried to give them. Not fear, preparation. Eli's voice came again, softer. "We need an armory." Mara's eyes narrowed in the dark. "National Guard," she whispered. Eli nodded. "If we find one." Mara looked at the map in her mind. Routes, towns to avoid, facilities to target. She felt the old compass inside her brother's chest, inside her own. Home was far, but not unreachable. Not if they moved like shadows. Not if they stayed smart. And not if they remembered the hardest rule. Trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, it isn't.
We hope you enjoyed this story. There's more to come. Subscribe down below. These stories are written by us, helped by AI, and then we put it all together and bring it to you. Stay tuned for the next story coming your way.